Anthony had been noticing something strange. His electricity bill was higher than ever. Even though he hadn't changed his usage at first, he thought it was a mistake. But then he remembered the last time this happened, his gut told him to check the outdoor power outlet as he stepped outside the cool night air, did little to calm his rising suspicion. His eyes narrowed as he followed the extension cord snaking across his yard, vanishing into the night. He followed it slowly, his heart racing the cord, LED directly to HOA President Karen's residence. Anthony gritted his teeth. She was stealing his power again. Anger turned to icy resolve last time he had let her get away with an excuse. But not this time if Karen believed she could continue to take advantage of him. She was going to learn a lesson the hard way. This time he was prepared. Hello. Welcome to HOA Real Tales. Anthony always enjoyed the peace and quiet at home until Karen, the HOA president, declared it her mission to be a thorn in his side. She needed control, making unreasonable rules and looking for ways to harass homeowners, most notably him. But this time she had overstepped boundaries a few months ago. He had caught her illegally using his outdoor power outlet to charge her electric car. She had dismissed as a misunderstanding and vowed never to do so again. But Anthony was not a naive fellow. When his electricity bill suddenly shot up, he knew something was amiss, and when he went out the back door and saw an extension cord straight from his outlet to Karen's house, his suspicions were dispelled. His blood boiled. She was taking from him again. Last time he had given her the benefit of the doubt. This time, he would not. Karen felt she was untouchable, that no one could have her pay, but Anthony had had enough. He wasn't just going to confront her, he was going to teach her a lesson she'd never forget as he stared at the stolen electricity powering her car. A slow, determined smile spread his face. This time, he was prepared. Anthony took a deep breath, calming himself down. Storming over to Karen's house and confronting her wouldn't be sufficient. She'd deny everything like she did last time. He required proof, undeniable evidence that would put her in the spotlight before the whole neighborhood that night under the veil of darkness. Anthony placed a small secret camera close to the outdoor power outlet. He put it in a carefully chosen position, ensuring that it had a clear view of the extension cord. If Karen was stealing his electricity again, he was going to catch her in the act the next morning. Anthony checked the footage, his pulse quickened as he watched the video. There she was at exactly 2 a.m. Karen had snuck into his yard like a thief, plugged her extension cord into his outlet, and rushed back inside. Minutes later, her pricey electric car started charging in on his dime. Anthony clenched his fists. The audacity, she hadn't even tried to hide it. She obviously thought she could get away with anything. But she was wrong. Rather than confronting her immediately, Anthony sat back in his chair. A slow smile spreading, he could humiliate her in front of the HOA. Bored right now, but that wasn't enough. No, Karen needed to face real consequences. An idea struck in his mind. A clever, foolproof trap. If Karen wanted to continue stealing his authority, he would allow her, but this time it would not be for free. Anthony spent the day getting ready first. He rigged the outlet with a unique device that would cause a blaring alarm the next time Karen attempted to plug in her. Not any alarm, a shrieking, shrill siren, one that could be heard by the whole neighborhood next. He put in a motion, sensing spotlight trained directly on the outlet. The second Karen approached, she'd be blinded by a sudden flash of bright white light exposing her in the act. And just to make sure her humiliation was complete, he canted his camera angle to capture the ideal image of her gasp of horror. By the time he was finished, Anthony experienced an almost wicked gratification. Karen had been pilfering from him for far too long, thinking there would be no repercussions. But tonight, when she attempted to play her regular trick, she would find out the hard way that tanking with him was a bad idea. Anthony had barely slept last night. He remained in bed, waiting, his heart racing with expectation. His trap was in place, and now it was just a question of time. Every couple of minutes, he peeked at the live feed from his hidden camera, looking out for any activity around the outlet. Then at 2:07 a.m., there she was. Karen slipped out of her house just like last time, wearing dark attire, as if she really believed she was sneaking. Anthony was having to suppress a laugh. She had no clue what was awaiting her. She darted over his property like a thief. The extension cord was already in her hands, waiting to be inserted. She made it to an outlet and bent her fingers, clutching the plug. A deafening siren burst shattering. The silence of the night, the noise was so loud that even Anthony, safe in his house, winced. But Karen, she screamed before she could move. The motion-activated spotlight blazed to life, drenching her in blinding white light. She was totally exposed. Her hands shot to her face as if that would somehow conceal her. But it was too late. The whole neighborhood was waking up, lights flashed on, doors open. People stepped outside sleepily and disoriented, their eyes opening as they took in the sight. "What's happening?" one neighbor shouted. "Is Karen?" someone else asked. Rubbing their eyes, Karen rushed to pull the EXT extension cord out of the outlet. Her actions frantic, she fumbled, stumbled over her own feet, and almost fell. The siren continued to wail, piercing through the night like a police siren. Then Anthony stepped outside onto his porch. He took his time, arms folded across his chest, letting the moment stretch out. He wanted every single one of the people in the neighborhood to witness exactly what was occurring. "Well, well, well," he declared, his voice firm and clear. "Looks like we've got ourselves a thief." Karen's head jerked over towards him, her face, white eyes, huge with alarm. I wasn't save it." Anthony held up his phone. "I have it all on camera." The neighbors turned to him in surprise. "You do?" someone asked. Anthony smiled. "Oh, I do, and I think everyone here would love to see it." Karen's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked like a trapped animal wanting so badly to get away. But realizing there was nowhere to go by this time, almost a dozen neighbors had assembled. Whispering to one another, some of them had already suspected Karen of tactics dealings. "But this was undeniable proof. You mean to tell me," Mr. Thompson, an older resident, said in disbelief, "that she's been stealing your electricity this whole time?" "Not just this time," Anthony said, shaking his head. "She did it before, lied about it too. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it again." Karen's face twisted with frustration. "It's not like it's a big deal," she snapped. "It's just a little electricity. Why are you creating such a commotion?" A few gasps from the crowd. "A little electricity?" Anthony repeated, his voice sarcasm dripping. "Karen, my bill has almost doubled. How many times have you plugged your car without informing me?" Folded her arms and raised her chin. "It's only a misunderstanding. You're blowing this out of proportion." Anthony smirked. "A misunderstanding? Let's see if the HOA board feels the same way." At those words, Karen's confidence faltered. She knew what this would mean. The HOA board would not turn a blind eye to such open misconduct, especially not when half the neighborhood had seen it with their own eyes. Anthony pulled out his phone, opened the recorded video, and held it up for all of us to see. The video played loud and clear. Karen sneaking into his yard, her plugging in the extension cord, the unmistakable sight of her car drawing power from his home. The crowd murmured in shock. "She really did it," someone whispered. Mr. Thompson shook his head. "That's low even for you, Karen." A younger couple in the crowd, new homeowners, looked horrified. "And this is the person running." Karen's face turned red. "You're all overreacting. I do so much for this community. I save it." Anthony interrupted. "You're a thief, Karen, and you're finally paying the price." At that moment, another voice familiar to her echoed out. "What's all the commotion?" The HOA vice president, Mrs. Parker, emerged from view, her bathrobe belted tightly about her. She gazed on the scene, Karen caught in the blinding spotlight, the crowd of murmuring and Anthony standing there with his phone, and heaved a deep sigh. "Karen," she said, massaging her temples, "tell me this isn't what it seems like." Karen opened her lips, but nothing came out. Mrs. Parker turned to Anthony. "Show me." Anthony handed the phone to her. She viewed the video in silence, her face growing darker by the second. When the video ended, she looked up, her eyes fixed on Karen. "This is serious," Mrs. Parker said. "Pilfering electricity, deceiving to homeowners. Karen, you're the HOA president. You're supposed to be setting an example." Karen's confidence cracked completely. I can fix this. It was just a mistake." Mrs. Parker exhaled sharply. "We'll be having an emergency HOA meeting tomorrow, and you can bet your position is on the agenda." The crowd murmured louder now. Some neighbors actually cheered. Karen looked around, realizing she had no allies left. Anthony couldn't help but smirk. Guess you should have considered that before stealing from me. Karen frowned, but she knew she had lost with one last glare at Anthony. She grasped her extension cord, pulled it out of the door, and rushed back into her home as she vanished behind the alarm. Finally ceased, the night grew quiet again, except for the subdued gossip of contented neighbors. Anthony remained there, arms folded, observing her retreat. For the first time in months, he felt triumphant, and as the neighborhood slowly went back to their houses, one thing was clear: Karen had at last been put in her place the next morning. The neighborhood hummed with gossip about the HOA scandal. Words traveled quickly. Karen, the previously untouchable HOA president, had been caught stealing electricity red-handed. And thanks to Anthony, she couldn't talk her way out of it. By the afternoon, an emergency HOA meeting was called. Karen Yu, Ellie, smug and authoritative, sat silent and pale as the board reviewed the evidence. The footage, the alarm, the witnesses, it was undeniable. The verdict: Karen was removed as HOA president. It wasn't just about the stealing of electricity. Her abuse of power had finally caught up with her, and without her title, she no longer had dominion over the neighborhood. For the first time in years, Anthony felt a sense of peace. No more absurd HF fines, no more arbitrary rule changes intended to make his life unbearable. No more Karen lurking about looking for ways to take advantage. But Anthony wasn't naive. He knew people like Karen didn't change overnight. So as he sat on his porch that night, drinking his coffee, he looked over at the hidden camera still installed close to his outside outlet. It was still operating, still watching. Because if Karen ever attempted to pull another trick, Anthony would be prepared. And this time, she wouldn't simply lose her job. She'd lose what little reputation she had remaining.